go. Placer County Railroad War of 1864. A one-act story with improvisation. Actors on stage, please. Welcome. Tonight we share the story of the Placer County Railroad War of 1864 to include a reenactment of the war. Okay, stop. This is near the climax of the tale. Allow me to share some background before we jump right into the reenactment of the war. Actors, can we go back to the top, please? Thank you. I love your energy, but let's give context first. All right. Storyteller. All war can be boiled down to a conflict over control of valuable resources such as land, natural resources like diamonds or oil, or human resources. The Placer County Railroad War of 1864 is no exception. This war is a tale of three railroad companies with a shared vision but competing ambitions, which leads dirty tricks and conflicts regarding an available but limited resource. The three railroads associated with our little-known war are the Sacramento Valley Railroad, the Central Pacific Railroad, and the Sacramento Placer and Nevada Railroad, or the SPNRR. SPNRR? Okay. Okay, great. So, the Sacramento Valley Railroad was incorporated in 1852 by Colonel Charles Lincoln Wilson. Woo! Holla. This railroad was to run from Sacramento to Folsom, then on to Marysville. The Colonel Wilson then hires Theodore Judah as chief engineer to survey a route for the railroad. The first leg from the Sacramento to Folsom receives its first train on February 22nd, 1856. Unfortunately, due to financial circumstances, the construction stalls before the Sacramento Valley Railroad reaches its ultimate destination of Marysville. After about a year of failed attempts to arrange funding, Sacramento Valley Railroad's second leg from Folsom to Marysville, Colonel Wilson pivots, and in April 1857, he incorporates the California Central Railroad. Colonel Wilson's new rail company receives funding, and he wants to develop a line from Folsom to Marysville to complete his initial ambition. Theodore Judah was again employed by Colonel Wilson as the surveying engineer. Surveyed your little heart out. Land and right-of-ways are purchased, with an area 20 miles north of Folsom being identified as the first destination for the new rail line. Judah lays out this new town, and in November 1859, Wilson auctions off these plots of land to raise funds for the California Central Railroad construction. The town formed is named Lincoln, after Colonel Charles Lincoln Wilson. Anybody here from Lincoln tonight? This is your town, baby. All right. When the California Central, due to financial issues, is unable to complete the second leg of the intended route from Lincoln to Marysville, Colonel Wilson pivots again and forms the Yuma Railroad Company. Meanwhile, Judah orders some iron rails from the Rensselaer Iron Company of Troy, New York, but he can't pay for them when they arrive in San Francisco. It is important to note that railroad iron was expensive and produced mostly on the East Coast, where it must be steam-shipped down the Atlantic coastline to the Panama, where it was trucked across by wagons across the land and then placed on another steamship and brought up the Pacific coastline to San Francisco. This is also how many travelers arrived from the East Coast to San Francisco. The second railroad, okay, thank you. Yay, thank you. Okay. The second railroad involved in the war is the Central Pacific Railroad. This is founded in 1861 by a group of California merchants known later as the Big Four. Collins P. Huntington, wave your hand. Leland Stanford, wave your hand. Mark Hopkins, wave your hand. And Charles Crocker, step forth. All right. Charles Crocker of the Central Pacific Railroad. He resigns the board and his directorship in December 1862 to receive a contract for the Charles Crocker and Company to grade the first 18 miles from Sacramento to a crossing known as Griders. This is a stagecoach station, which became known as Junction during the railroad construction. In April 1864, we're getting close to the war now, the Central Pacific opened the Pacific Railroad from Sacramento toward Rocklin, terminating at that time in Junction. and slicing into Colonel Wilson's already operating California Central Rail line that ran from Folsom to Lincoln. Junction grows and becomes the town of Roseville. Crocker's actions rendered Colonel Wilson's California Central Railroad track from Folsom to Roseville completely useless. This type of behavior from Charles Crocker and the Central Pacific Railroad creates a long-standing animosity between Colonel Wilson and Charles Crocker and Associates. Thank you, gentlemen. The third rail company associated with the Placer County Railroad War of 1864 is the Sacramento Placer and Nevada Railroad. We call them the SPNRR. This rail company forms in 1859, headed by Lester Robinson, who history describes as a railroad executive, ranch owner, mining operator, with relentless pursuit of greatness and boundless ambition. Lester Robinson's goals for his company are to build a 19-mile stretch of rail from Folsom to Auburn. When Theodore Judah is unable to raise the funds to pay for the Rensselaer iron that has arrived in San Francisco, it is Lester Robinson who buys that iron for the SPNRR. Now, the population area of what is now Auburn, step forward please, is encouraged by Lester Robinson and the SPNRR to incorporate in March 1860 so bonds can be issued to help finance this railroad that is promised to be an economic boom for this newly incorporated town of Auburn. Unfortunately, the SPNRR runs short of funds after completing construction from Folsom to an area known today as Auburn Station. This is just 6 miles short of their Auburn goal. While, as of 1862, trains do operate on this line from Folsom area to Auburn Station and serve, among other people, Griffith's Quarry, by 1864, the SPNRR is bankrupt. The SPNRR's failure causes Auburn, a major investor in the SPNRR, to default on the bonds it issued. The railroad company was forced to foreclose, and the town of Auburn, within 2 years, loses its incorporation with the state and is dissolved. It is the failure of the SPNRR Railroad Company in 1864 that sets the stage for our war. Both the Sacramento Valley Railroad and the Central Pacific Railroad see value in the abandoned SPNRR railings. Now that we've set the stage for the conflict, we shall enjoy a brief commercial break before we begin the reenactment of the Placer County Railroad War of 1864. All right. So, first commercial. All right, first commercial. I have a saloon proprietor. Somebody show us how it's done. Let's take somebody else. You did it last time, right? So somebody else want to do it? Come on.
I got it.
All right, somebody different. All right. Somebody different.
Headquarters Saloon, Hugh Burns, proprietor, on the main street opposite Robert Gorton's store in Auburn, California. Having become sole proprietor of this well-known and popular saloon and refitted it throughout in a neat and comfortable manner. With tables and chairs. I will be happy to see my friends, the best of wines, liquors, and cigars always on hand, and at the prices to suit the times. Also, the best of lager beer and ice in the hot weather.
All right, that's an actual ad. Okay, next ad. So who in the audience would like this one? This is Johnson & Johnson Tea Company. Johnson & Johnson, if he wants to read it. Oh, come on.
Sure,
Player, come here. All right, here we go. Player, read it.
Johnson & Johnson Tea. Johnson & Johnson & Company's pure, uncolored tea is not preferred to all others. It is decidedly the purest, strongest, cheapest, and best. The most wholesome and invigorating. Sold in packets by agents in every town.
All right. So, not to be outdone, the Himalaya Tea Company had a response to that Johnson & Johnson ad. Who wants to read the Himalaya Tea Company? All right.
Himalaya tea, pure natural colors, grown under government inspection. It is the best and cheapest tea, unequaled for flavor and strength. Sold in packets in every reputable store. Additional respectable agents wanted and may apply to this.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so they went and found where was Johnson & Johnson placing ads, and they went and placed their ads right underneath Johnson & Johnson, repeating similar language, but saying that they were even better. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, so then there was an angry partner ad. They're dissolving a business. Yeah. So And apparently, although they make it sound like they were friendly, they weren't.
The solution of co-partnership. The co-partnership heretofore existing between the undersigned and the livery stable business was dissolved on the 9th day of June 1864 by mutual consent. John Barney, J.H. Farms, Auburn.
Very good. Yay! Woo! Good job. All right. And last but not least, Sarsaparilla Man. I gave him one.
Ayers Sarsaparilla. It seems to be accorded by the universal consent of mankind that Dr. J.C. Ayers and Co.'s sarsaparilla, pectoral, and pills are the greatest remedy yet discovered for the treatment of disease. That Ayers sarsaparilla is the great elixir of life, which philosophers have sought for purifying the blood. Try it and judge it for yourselves.
Woo! All right. Thank you to everybody who volunteered. Woo! Good job, volunteers. All right. All right. Thank you for those who volunteered and for those who were had their ears perked and were listening. Yay for you too. It's time now to reenact the Placer County Railroad War of 1864. We will be inviting volunteers to participate in this reenactment. If you see a place to jump in and help lay rail or whatever. All right, June 1864. The SPNRR, Robinson. The SPNRR is put up for sale and is purchased by the Sacramento Valley Railroad Company, who plans to take up rails for use on their Placerville rail line. Perfectly legal. The Charles Crocker and the Central Pacific Railroad want to impede the Sacramento Valley Railroad's progress. So they convince a Welsh quarry owner, is there somebody you want to whisper in the ear of? Yeah. A Welsh quarry owner, Griffith, who invested in the SPNRR, to use that rail line to move his granite. Well, they convinced him to file an injunction to stop the removal of the SPNRR tracks, now owned by Sacramento Valley Railroad. Charles Crocker and the Central Pacific sought the injunction as they hid behind Griffith, and it's granted pending further review. So, anxious to continue their progress, they try various legal means in it, and they get no recourse. Finally, in early July, the Sacramento Valley Railroad, they hire some men from San Francisco. Come on up from the audience if you'd like to lay rail. Hire men from San Francisco, and they start dismantling the rail despite the injunction. Come on up and lay rail if you like. Placer County Sheriff Sexton, who's going to be my sheriff? Sheriff Sexton. Woo! Okay. Is called out to stop the removal. He arrests about a dozen workers who are bailed out and return working the rails. Yeah, and then, all right. Bail them out, and they're returned to working the rails by the cover of darkness. All right, so go right back to it. Under Sheriff Poole, who you also represent as the sheriff, and Deputy Pittenger, they're called out to stop the removal again, but there were nearly 60 dismantling workers, and the officers were repelled, and the deputy sheriff was hoisted into a rail car and sent off to Folsom. On the 4th of July, led by sheriff deputies and a citizen posse, they forced the dismantled workers to retreat, but not before 2 workers kidnapped Deputy Sheriff James Sexton, the brother of the sheriff. The 2 workers kidnapped James Sexton, but eventually they are found, arrested, and Sexton is free. Okay, so we have our first, the Sacramento Daily Union. Who wants to read the newspaper? You want to read the newspaper piece? Okay, great. All right, read it out loud. Woo!
We at the Sacramento Daily Union call for the military to get involved and use all necessary force of powder, shot, and shrapnel on the offended barbarians.
All right. So there they are, calling poor Sacramento Valley Railroad barbarians for removing the rail that they purchased. All right. The threat of violence escalation produces a stalemate. There are a line of workers on one side, ready to continue dismantling, and a line of sheriff's deputies and posse on the other side, waiting and watching. The stalemate is broken by Justice of the Peace in Lincoln. As you recall, that's the town that was founded by Colonel Charles Lincoln Wilson of the Sacramento Valley Railroad. So who wants to be the Justice of the Peace from Lincoln? We run across because they don't know. We have a lot of people on this side. Yeah, have a chance? No? Yes? No? Maybe so? You want it? Great. Go for it. Okay, you are now Justice of the Peace.
As Justice of the Peace, I charge the citizen posse from Auburn with disturbing the peace and carrying concealed weapons and issue warrants for their arrest.
Here, here.
So, what do you think happens? So, here we go. The Lincoln deputies round up the citizen posse. They take them to Lincoln. And the Auburn Deputy Coburn mounts a horse and rides off to Auburn to report the arrest to Sheriff Sexton. Sheriff Sexton is more determined than ever to stop the dismantling. So he reaches out to the Auburn Grays. So anybody from the audience want to be part of the Auburn Grays? Come on, jump on up. There we go. Come on up. Here's some Auburn Grays for you. This is a local militia out of Auburn. And along with the deputies and the Auburn Grays, the sheriff returns to this dismantling site. Upon their arrival, instead of an organized military action, there is the equivalent of a barroom brawl. A pistol shot is fired through the outer ear of a rail worker. A deputy is being struck repeatedly, and a member of the Auburn Grays stops the beating by stabbing the rail worker in the side with his bayonet. The sheriff reinforcements arrive. The workers are outnumbered, and the Sheriff Sexton's arrests about 20 of them. So round up your people. They're all arrested. All right. Eventually, they're let out of jail, and the workers who were removing rail are sent back to San Francisco because the injunction to cease the rail removal is lifted by the California Supreme Court. So Sheriff Sexton, where are you, love? Whatever his personal feelings, he must now allow the removal of the rails by the Sacramento Valley Railroad. They immediately go back to work, dismantling the SPNR Railway for their line toward Placerville. But Sheriff Sexton seeks revenge. Where's my revenging sheriff? And plays another card from his sleeve. He sends sheriff deputies and the Auburn Grays and the citizen posse to arrest the workers for inciting a riot. The Sacramento Valley Railroad has hired a fresh local crew who were not involved in the prior skirmishes. They did not illegally remove any rail.
Got the wrong guy.
But nonetheless, they continue to remove the rail, and they're within 1 mile of the Sacramento County border when the sheriff deputies from Auburn, the Auburn Grays, and the Auburn Citizen Posse all violently set upon these new workers. And they outnumber, the workers outnumber the Auburn contingent. The Auburn men are repelled, but not before an Auburn Gray militiaman is so badly hurt, he has to recuperate nearby before he can go to a hospital. The railroad workers quickly remove the remaining mile of track, crossing into Sacramento County and out of the Placer County Sheriff's jurisdiction.
We don't offer workers' comp.
Not yet. Yeah. The Sacramento County Sheriff, James McClatchy, honors the Supreme Court ruling and makes no attempt to impede the rail removal. All right, I have one more card to read. Placer Herald. Who wants to read the quote from Placer Herald? Quote from Placer Herald. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Placer Herald, July 16, 1864. Placer County will be called upon to assume a large bill of costs growing out of this case, and the people will have Stanford, Crocker & Company of the Central Pacific Railroad to thank for it.
Yeah.
Yep. Devious person. Okay. There were words I cannot say in front of a child. All right. So, sadly, the Placer County Railroad War is not unique. Skirmishes, competitive theft, events of sabotage occurred across the United States as entrepreneurs sought to make their fortune through the construction and or operation of railroad companies. While not all people or all businesses are corrupt, many California business pioneers in the mid-1800s promoted an environment in which entrepreneurs and opportunists gambled that the successful end of their ventures would justify the means by which they and their companies conducted themselves. And in the end, Theodore Judah dies in 1863 of yellow fever. Contracted while crossing the Isthmus of Panama as he headed back to New York on business, never seeing his dream of a Continental Railroad come to life. Colonel Charles Lincoln Wilson lives the rest of his life in his Lincoln home, and his namesake son lives in the home he owned in Chico. In 1888, the town of Auburn, our lovely town of Auburn, is allowed to reincorporate by committing to a plan that retires the bond debt. And as of today, no artifacts nor traces remain of the SPNRR other than its original grading. Pardon me. All tracks, ties, and spikes are long gone, and houses now stand where there once was the Griffith Quarry, erasing all evidence of the SPNRR as it fades from memory and becomes a footnote in history. The end. So, Terry, thank you to our participants. Yay, everybody, for being All right, Frankenstein, or The Man and the Monster. Act 1, Scene 1. The gardens of the Prince del Piombino's Sicilian villa. At the back is a depiction of the countryside. Up left is the entrance to the villa, which leads to the palace beyond. Up right is a bit of the exterior of a garden pavilion in the background. Enter Quadro. Enter Strut. Enter Vizetta. And scene when you're ready.
And Mr. Strut, you think yourself a great man, I suppose.
Philosophers are not content with thinking I know it. My master's a great man. He's like the sun and I'm the moon. I shine with a reflected brilliance.
Oh, great man indeed. I should like to know what is great about either of you. A couple of adventurers whom my poor silly dupe of a master, heaven help the prince, has brought from that beggarly place, Germany.
Yeah.
And I suppose you'll never leave him once he has a ducat.
Here for his ducats, indeed. We can make gold out of any rubbish. Your head, for example, Signor Quadro. My master is the most profound philosopher, the greatest man that ever lived. To tell you all he can do is impossible.
Yes, his way of making gold, I fancy, is by conveying it out of other people's pockets.
Signor Quadro, it is fortunate for you that my master does not hear you, and despite the choice bottles of fine wine that you have stolen from time to time and shared with me in an attempt to loosen my lips as to my master's business, I am too discreet to share either his works with you or your insults with him. For oh, Signor Quadro, my master's power and influence are terrible. He could prevent you from ever passing a quiet night again.
Strut, when I've 3 quarts of good for pot of wine warming my bones, I give you a master leave to try his powers. Doubt not that I can sleep through any strife after a bottle or 2 of good wine. But your master, sir? Your master is a water drinker. And he keeps no butler. I never knew any good man that drank water and kept no butler. In vino veritas, he is not to be trusted.
That is not an offense you can lay at my feet, Signor Quadro. I have the most philosophical principles upon the matter. I drink water only when I cannot find something better.
But that is the case, I fancy. More water than wine in your life. No, unless you can find some good-natured simpleton, like our Prince del Piombino, to keep you and your master together. Instead of paying you board and wages, he foists you upon the homes of his subjects that are fool enough to take you with.
Be assured of this, Signor Quadro. I am not ungrateful. When any kind friend has the goodness to take me in, I gladly return the favor.
The devil doubt you.
But for my master, Signor Quadro, all the wine in Sicily is of no object to him. He can turn that river there, for example, into wine if he thought proper. I've seen him do it, oh yes, and convert a quart of simple water into a bottle of prime Burgundy.
Can he do that? Well, then he has an easy way of making me his sworn friend for life. Oh. I have him turn the water pump in our stable yard into a fountain of claret, and I swear to never pinch another bottle of my master's wine so long as I'm his butler.
And pray, Mr. Strut, has all this philosophy and learning quite driven the thoughts of love out of your head? I suppose you fancy yourself now quite above us, poor, weak women.
Not at all, my dear creature. For the man who has the impudence to fancy himself above the fairer sex has fallen immeasurably below it.
Egad, pray now, my good Mr. Strut, amongst all the transmuting of metal and converting of water, Can you inform us what it is that this wonderful master of yours is doing in that pavilion, where he remains constantly shut up day and night, to which no mortal but himself is ever permitted to penetrate?
You would like to know, wouldn't you?
Yes, I should, very much indeed.
I give the world to know the secrets.
As would I.
What then? You can't tell us?
Or perhaps you won't.
Why, you see, I'm not exactly certain, and I partly guess. That is, I suspect that it is something that will astonish your weak nerves.
Oh, sure.
You nasty, ill-natured fellow. Oh, see what happens the next time you try to kiss me.
Oh, but hark! His Highness approaches with his lovely sister, Lady Rosario. Back! Back, all of you! Show him some proper respect.
Okay, we need 2 attendants. Who wants to be an attendant? You don't have to say any lines. They'll tell you what to do. I'll sneak you backstage with the actors, and they're going to tell you what to do. You want to be an attendant?
Sure.
It's pretty easy. Come on up. Yeah. All right. So you're going to come be with these people, and they're going to tell you what to do. Basically, you follow them, and when they exit, you follow them. Okay. So. All right. Okay. And that's all I need for right now. Okay. Servants enter from the villa and they form a line to receive the prince's party. A gondola approaches the shore down right, from which the prince, our prince, and Rosara, land with their attendants. As the prince advances toward the villa, Quadra leads the servants and the audience in a salute.
All hail, Prince del Piombino!
Enough, my friends. Those of you with work to do, hasten to the villa and prepare for the festival in honor of our guest, who graces my home with his presence, the illustrious genius, Dr. Frankenstein.
A festival, too, and for a man who drinks no wine? Well, there is one consolation. There will be more wine for the rest of us, so I'll do my best to make up for his deficiencies.
If there's dancing, may I claim the honor?
Will you try and find out your master's secret for me?
Oh, it's positively against his orders to pry into his concerns. There is but one person in the world whose commands could induce me to disobey those of my master.
And pray, who may that be?
My mistress. Interesting.
Sutch takes Lizetta under his arm as they exit in private flirtation toward the palace.
I feel most deeply that rank and opulence can never do themselves greater honor than by protecting and assisting talent and genius.
And never, surely, did genius clothe itself in a more enviable guise than in the person of Dr. Frankenstein. How different is the unassuming modesty of his demeanor, his winning gentleness from that of the arrogant yet lauding academic.
Well, there's a solemn mockery of pretension, which a genius such as Dr. Frankenstein's despises. You see, the universities of Germany have all bent the knee to his talent and acknowledged his superiority. Therefore, he is not only respected, but must be quite well off by now, an excellent catch, and a prince who is conscious of Frankenstein's merits and assists in the progression of the doctor's efforts shall not only reap the fruit of the doctor's sublime discoveries, but through association, that prince shall become the sharer of his immortality.
Oh, may virtues and talents such as Dr. Frankenstein's ever receive the patronage of men such as Prince del Piombino.
All hail, Prince del Piombino!
I rejoice that my sister Rosara's admiration of this illustrious foreigner almost equals my own enthusiasm. Shall I crown my favors towards our esteemed Dr. Frankenstein and bestow upon him an inestimable reward that draws him to our breast forever?
Oh, my brother!
Ha ha! That blush and downcast look assures me that should my admiration of Dr. Frankenstein and his status induce me to confer on him the precious gift of my sister's hand, I should not in your heart find an opposer of my generosity. In your silence, I read your acquiescence. Very well. This night, amidst the joyous mirth that fills our halls, I will hint to our philosopher the dearest pleasure I have in store for him.
My dear, dear brother, a heart like yours will always find the secret of making all around it happy.
The servants bow. Then the prince or the princess exit as their attendants follow them out toward the palace. End of scene. Thank you, wonderful attendants. Yay! We need a monster. Who would like to be the monster for a scene? Monster. Want to be a monster, sir? No? You want to be a monster? Yeah, all right.
Put a growl
We
at
have a monster. Okay, all right. So, what we're going to do is you're going to lay on a table. So where's the table? That's the next scene?
Yeah.
Okay, my notes are wrong. So, what you're going to do is you're going to come back by me. Why don't you go ahead and sit in this chair, and you're eventually going to come in on stage left. Sorry, the notes are wrong. Okay. Okay, we are in Frankenstein's study. We are set up in the estate's pavilion. The tables are laden with laboratory equipment, and one long table exhibits an indistinct form covered by a cloth. A wall of windows, and beyond, an inky, brooding sky. Frankenstein enters and rushes to the window to take in the state of the evening sky.
Yes, it comes. It comes. 'Tis nigh the moment that shall crown my patient labors, that shall gild my toilsome studies with the brightest joy that ever was yet attained by mortal man. What monarch's power, what general's valor, or what hero's fame can rank with that of Frankenstein? What can their choicest efforts accomplish but to destroy? 'Tis mine only, to create, to breathe the breath of life into a mass of putrefying mortality. 'Tis mine to call into existence a form conceived in my own notion of perfection. How vain, how worthless is the noblest fame compared to mine! Frankenstein shall be the first of men, and this triumph is at hand. But a few moments, and it is accomplished. Burst not, high-swelling hearts, with this overwhelming tide of joy.
Oh, my dear sir, I have not seen you before today. I am so glad to meet with you.
Yes, 'tis well, boy. Good evening to you.
There are such doings in the palace, feastings and merrymakings, and all is for you.
That is as it should be. I will be with ye anon. Let the joyous notes swell loud. I will be there, exulting in my triumph.
Aye, but more than that, I know something that will make you so happy. It is a great honor, and it has to do with hands. But I cannot tell you, as I was sworn to secrecy.
Oh, I shall be happy. But the secret is my own. Leave me, boy.
Nay, now you do not love your poor Julio. I know not how I have offended you, but you never spoke harshly to me before.
Nay, my pretty pupil, my affectionate Julio, I love thee ever. I am simply enthralled by intense studies, and I would be alone.
If you are sure you love me, I will leave you. And I shall know where to find you, by my pretty Aunt Rosara's side. Oh, if you did but know what I could tell you.
The time has come. The glorious moment has arrived. Now, Frankenstein, achieve your mighty work. Gain the best of victories, a victory over the grave!
Frankenstein goes to work at his other tables as Strut enters with a ladder and Lisetta.
Well, now, do you know, Lisette, I'm going to do a great deal more for you than I dare to do for myself. I'm dying to know what my master is about yon, but if he should catch me peeping, what a jolly thump of the head I should get. To be sure, and then, Lisette, you know, you have it in your power to break my heart. It's great or worse.
And now, without any more ado, you put the ladder against the window and hold it fast, whilst I mount out and see what he is about.
For shame, Lisette. What are you thinking about? I'll get up the ladder and I'll report all that I see to you down below.
Well, just as you please, but I'd only rather peep for myself because, seeing is believing.
Strut places the ladder against the window of the pavilion, mounts it, and peeps in, and a faint glimmering of light is seen through the window.
What can you see?
I see a little fire and a great deal of smoke.
I suppose all your boasted discoveries will end in smoke.
Oh, now I can see better. And would you believe in Lisette? From all that I can say, I really do think it seems so to me. My master is making a man.
Making a man? What, is he not alone?
Yes, quite alone. Oh, God, that's too much for me. My master's blown off the top of the pavilion. He's raising the door. Run, Lizette, run!
I don't have to run fast. I just need to run faster than you.
Ah!
Okay. And they exit. End of scene. Yay, so now we have our monster. We're moving on. In Act 1, Scene 3, the interior of the pavilion, a particular area in Frankenstein's study, containing a long table. You're going to go and sit on that table.
Monster.
Supporting an indistinct form covered by a cloth. So we're going to have a seat and then, just pretend to cover him.
My lovely assistant.
Yes.
Haircut, huh?
Okay. A small side table of bottles and chemical apparatus and a brazier with fire. Frankenstein stands over the long table, engaged in calculations.
The breath.
Bottom of 13.
Now that the final operation is accomplished, my panting heart dares scarcely gaze upon the object of its labors. Dares scarcely contemplate the grand fulfillment of its wishes. Courage, Frankenstein. Glut thy big soul with exultation. Enjoy a triumph never yet attained by mortal man.
He eagerly lays his hand on the bosom of the figure as if to discover whether it breathes.
Yes, the breath of life now swells its bosom as the cool night breeze plays upon its brow. It will awake to sense and motion.
He rolls back the cloth to expose a colossal human figure of a cadaverous, livid complexion. The monster. It slowly begins to rise, gradually attaining an erect seated position. Frankenstein observes this with intense mix of anxiety and anticipatory excitement. When the monster has attained a perpendicular position and sets his uncomprehending gaze upon Frankenstein, the doctor pulls back in horror.
Merciful heavens! And as the fondest visions of my fancy awaken to this terrible reality, a form of horror which I scarcely dare to look upon. Instead of the fresh color of humanity, he wears the livid hue of the damp grave. Oh, horror, horror! Let me fly from this dreadful monster of my own creation.
He hides his face in his hands. The monster rises from the table and gradually gains the use of his limbs. He is surprised at the appearance of Dr. Frankenstein and advances toward him as a newborn colt seeks its mother. The monster gently approaches as he touches Dr. Frankenstein's arm. Frankenstein, who starts back in disgust and horror, the doctor fumbles for a weapon and rushes on the monster, swinging wildly with the utmost care. The monster takes the weapon and easily snaps it in two, then lays it down upon the floor. Frankenstein then attempts to seize the monster by the throat. With a very slight exertion by the monster, gently flicks the doctor away. But the monster's power sends the doctor a considerable distance. In shame, confusion, and despair, Dr. Frankenstein rushes out of the room, locking the door behind him. The monster gazes about in innocent wonder, crossing the room, listening at the door where Frankenstein exited, and hears the receding footprints of his master. The monster wishes to follow his daddy and with one tap at the door, the blow strikes the heavy door, which explodes from its hinges and falls to the side. The monster looks out, curious, and seeks a sign of its parent, then follows after the doctor. End of scene. Woo! So please keep the monster backstage for one more scene, and then we will select a new person next time. Okay, so keep monster. Move on to Act 1, Scene 4, A New World. Outside the pavilion, on the grounds of the princess's estate, Frankenstein, in great agitation, rushes in from the black. He rushes in. Get the monster come around to upright.
Oh, dear. Dear Eugene. I lost my page.
Middle of 15.
Apologies.
First paragraph.
Thank you so much. And, have all my dreams of greatness ended here? Is this the boasted wonder of my science, the offspring of my long years of toilsome study and enormous labors? Has my model for the perfection of man come to this? A hideous monster, a lonesome mass of animated putrefaction. To gaze on him chills even me, his maker, with horror and disgust. And how shall I secret him? How destroy him? Heavens, to think that in the very moment when all my toils were ended and I should glory in their noble consumptions, my only wish is to annihilate what I have made. A horror, a wretched product of my well-intentioned efforts. Never must I meet another. I, then mine, never must thou gaze upon a human being, lest your horrible aspects kill the viewer with terror.
Snap twigs and the crack of breaking branches is heard as we hear the heavy footfalls of the monster approaching.
Oh, he is here! I have endowed him with a giant strength, and he will use it to pluck down ruin on his maker's head.
The monster approaches him with gestures of conciliation.
Hints. Avoid me. Do not approach me. Wretch, thy horrid contact would spread a pestilence throughout my veins. Touch me, and I will straightway strike thee back to nothingness.
The monster approaches him with friendly gestures. Friendly gestures. Frankenstein endeavors to stab him with a dagger, which the monster swats from his hand. Whilst the monster is taking up the dagger and admiring this foreign object as a small child might, Frankenstein sneaks off. The monster, perceiving him gone, rushes off as if in pursuit, but in the wrong direction. End of scene. What an excellent monster. Thank you, monster. Now, you can do it again later, but we want to give other people opportunities as well. So, okay, we're into Act 1, Scene 5, so we're almost at the act break. Just a couple more scenes here. So, we need a new monster. You're going to enter down right in a bit. New monster. Who wants to be a monster? Anybody want to be a monster?
Oh, great.
Yeah? Okay. You want to be the monster? Awesome.
Come on.
So you're going to be entering from down right. So that means you're going to come over here. And you're going to come hang out with these actors. And they're going to help you. They're going to tell you what to do. And also listen to me reading. Because when I read, I say, the monster does this. And the monster does that. And then you do whatever I tell you to do. It's that easy. All right. This is really fun. We're going to tell us. This is great. Okay. Okay, so Act 1, Scene 5. Are we ready, folks?
Always.
Babes in the woods. The heart of a gloomy and intricate forest. A tremendous storm brews with thunder, lightning, and rain. Ritzberg, a new character, enters with his daughter, Emmeline, a new character. Bearing her child, in her arm. Okay. The
raging storm has drowned the baby's wailings. Oh, my poor babe, thou art hushed to silence. Sleep on, my sweet babe. We shall find him soon, yes. I am sure we shall. And when he sees mine apple cheeks reflecting your own, and how close your features favor his heart will turn to us, and we shall once again share a hearth as a family.
Emmeline, I don't believe a word of it. You talk of his heart, but he has no heart. No, if ever he did, his heart is now evaporated in the fumes of his diabolical preparations. All his affectations are contained in the slow drip of his chemical apparatus. No, any human feelings are annihilated by his mad ambitions.
Oh no, Father. His enthusiasm for knowledge and the drunken power it brings may for a time have weaned him from us, but my own kind, gentle Frankenstein can never be inhuman.
Can't he? Well, I don't know what you call it, but to see the young, innocent creature as you were, and to leave you and your child to poverty and want, while he was rambling in the opulent train car of a prince to pursue his own devilish doings? No, that is not inhuman. I don't know what is.
Father, Prince Del Piomino has an estate in this beautiful island of Sicily, and he recently attached a wonderful philosopher to his household. I am confident 'tis he, and oh, my heart tells me that once he sees us again, he will surely bless us with his returning love.
My dear Emmeline, I could not bear to see you pining away in hopeless sorrow, so I have quit my quiet, peaceful abode in Germany. And come wandering here to Sicily on this wild goose chase, and to trace your Frankenstein to the household of this prince, all from love from you. But it is cold and wet, and we have lost our way in the mazes of the forest. We must trace a path back to our hired hovel. We may try again tomorrow if you still have mind to do so, but I warn you, it is my belief that even if you find him at the prince's palace, he'll be sure to have you driven away like a common beggar.
Say not so, my father. Do not destroy my hope, for in that consists the little strength that now remains to me.
And a pretty night this is for a young, delicate creature like you and your helpless infant to be in. Curses! 1,000 curses upon that villain!
Father, curse not the husband of your Emmeline, the father of her babe, your grandchild.
All right, my dear, I won't. That damn good-for-nothing vagabond! I dare not stir a step in this plaguey forest, for the storm keeps such tremendous hubbub about us. I fear we shall stray further from our way. I'm sure she has no strength to waste. Well, you will stay here, exactly where I will leave you, and give me the child, for he must be tired of carrying you. I shall endeavor to find the cottage, and when I have located it, I will return for you. Here, under this tree. It will afford a partial shelter, and whilst I bore the insistence of the lightning revealing the way, I shall discover the path.
Ritzberg takes the child from Emmeline and goes out as he endeavors to trace the path back to the cottage.
My spirit fails me, and my strength is exhausted. Whilst I bore the child, nature gave me powers, and I could not sink beneath the grateful burden. Oh, what a sound! Heaven itself joins in the persecution of the hapless, helpless Emmeline. Father! Father, come to me! Oh, I sink, I die. Oh, dear Frankenstein, where are you now? Oh, when your loving Emmeline needs you most.
She falls on the ground. The storm continues to rage. The monster enters, wild and curious, as he darts about in reaction to the storm. Oh, what a scary storm. Eventually, the monster sees Emmeline on the ground and is struck with wonder. The monster approaches carefully, then gently raises Emmeline. He's filled with admiration and wonder. The dreadful lightning awakens him from his worship, and he takes up Emmeline in his arms, no, and bears her off to find shelter. So, they exit to find shelter. Oh, good job, monster. Good helping. After a moment, Ritzberg returns without the child.
Come, Emmeline, I found it at last. The babe is dry and warm, and you and I will be snug at home before the thunder can give us another growl. Merciful heavens! Not here! Where could she have gone? Has she wandered off and mistaken the path? Oh, so, my dear Emmeline, you have doubled our troubles. No, imprudent girl, why did you not stay?
Ritzberg.
Emmeline! Emmeline!
End of scene. I need a monster. Come on up. Okay, so you're going to. Why am I having trouble with this? Okay, the monster dashes up. Okay, upright. So you're going to come, follow that lady, and she's going to tell you what to do. You're going to come in when I read that you come in. And you just listen to what I say and you'll do it. It'll be easy. Act 1, Scene 6. Inside the cottage, rented by Herr Ritzberg. A small, plain room with a fireplace. The monster dashes open the cottage door and enters bearing Emmeline. The monster places Emmeline on the bench then looks around for some means of helping her. He notices a fireplace down here and reaches out, only to realize the fire is hot.
Ooh.
The monster then picks up the bench with Emmeline on it. Yeah, right. let's do that together. And places it near the fire to warm her. Then he stands watching her, curious. The child squalls, and the monster cries out. Then slowly draws near to examine the child curiously. The child cries out, and the monster cries out. Emmeline soothes the baby.
It's just a small babe. Babies cry. We will not harm you.
Ah! The monster just cries out in response.
Gently, Father. Please do not provoke me.
The monster beckons Ritzberg to approach him. He motions for Ritzberg to come close. But Ritzberg coils in suspicion. The monster then softly approaches the mother and child by going down on his knees and bowing his head and opening his arms with his palms raised toward the child and mother. Ritzberg mistakes this as a monster reaching for the baby and produces a shriek. He snatches up his gun. He fires at the monster and wounds it in the shoulder. The monster stands and recoils in a corner as he expresses the agony of the wound with the pain and childlike bewilderment. Ritzberg brandishes the gun and points it again at the monster. The monster rushes out of the hut and runs off. As you go the way you came in, that way, perfect. As Ritzberg shouts after him.
Run, you devil, and never return, or I will shoot you dead!
End of scene! Alright, we're back to scene 7, and I will need a new monster. Who wants to be a monster? We need another monster. And you can repeat if you've done it before if nobody else wants to do it. You want to be a monster, right? You were doing such a good job reading those things. Do you want to be a monster?
Sure, I'll be a
Be a monster for us.
Where am I going?
So you're going to be entering from down left. So stand with me, and my voice will tell you when to go.
Okay.
So Act 1, Scene 7. Meanwhile, somewhere in the countryside, on the estate of Prince del Piombino, Giulio enters, wandering about looking for Dr. Frankenstein, who is very late to the festival in his honor.
I can't conceive what has happened to Mr. Frankenstein. When I spoke to him earlier this evening, he was so cross and so abstracted and so mysterious. And now here my father, the prince, has given a grand festival expressly to do him honor, and he is nowhere to be found. I wish I could meet him with him, so I may coax him out of his gloomy humor and lead him smiling to my Aunt Rosara's hand.
The monster furiously rushes on.
Ah! What dreadful, gigantic creature is this?
As the monster approaches, Giulio picks up some rocks and throws them at the monster. The monster blocks the rocks with its arms and bends its knee and bows its head in supplication. But Giulio uses this as opportunity to quickly move in and strike the monster in the head with a rock. The monster becomes enraged and seizes Giulio's offending arm by the wrist.
Oh, help! Mercy! Spare me, you contortion of a creature!
The monster snatches Giulio up and throws her over his shoulder. Do not do that.
Okay.
And bears Giulio off as Giulio kicks and screams and slaps at the monster. Okay, end of scene. Keep the same monster. Right. We need to add. I need at least one attendant, and I need 2 other volunteers. So 3 total.
All right, let's go.
All right, woo! So, would you prefer to be an attendant or a dancer? Attendant. Okay, attendant, you're going to stand with your back to that curtain. So you 2 are dancers. Oh, woo-hoo. So stay in the center stage, and you will be informed as to what to do. So just right there in the center stage, you can just hang out there. So I'm going to set the scene. Act 1, Scene 8, a splendid banquet hall in Prince del Piombino's palace. The prince and Rosara are seated on their thrones as attendants and guests watch the ballet.
Okay, yeah. Great.
Can you just follow her? great. You're doing great.
Applesauce.
Yeah, you can stay standing if you have bad knees or something. Otherwise, he's going to come and tap you.
I know not why he in whose honor this entertainment was expressly given should so long be absent from our revels. Surely for one night he could relax from his deep studies.
I think he scarcely tarry longer, for I have sent Julio in search of him. Ah, he is here.
At length you have arrived. Be assured, my friend, your absence has been both felt and regretted.
Accept my humble and sincere apology. I was most intently engaged in the solution of a problem, on the results of which I had much at stake. My every hope depended on it, and yet the resolution has stamped me a wretch forever.
Ah, a truce to studying moody thoughts. Let the grape sparkling juice chase from your brain all dark chimeras. Partake the joy that smiles around you. Anon, I have a proposal for you that will increase your mirth, I trust.
Aye, let us be joyous. Let me seek joy even at the bottom of a goblet, for I certainly cannot find it in my own heart. Give me wine, quick! Let me drown a flowing goblet on the chance it may chase that vision. No, nothing will ever drive that horror from my memory.
From my hand will the cup bring more joy, dear Frankenstein. I would say, learned sir, what means the dreadful wildness that gleams on your countenance?
Dear and most lovely lady, 'tis the intoxication of high, swelling mirths and of gratitude. First lady, permit the humblest of your slaves to pledge himself to you.
He raises the cup to drink as Quadra rushes in.
Oh, my lord, there's such news of horror. The young Prince Julio has been murdered.
My boy, my pretty, innocent, affectionate boy. Say where, how, by whom?
He was found in the pavilion where Mr. Frankenstein pursues his studies. The door thrown from its hinges, and from the mark upon his neck he appears to be strangled.
Then my worst fears proved too true.
How did that lovely child provoke his fate? Robbery was not the object. Who could have the heart to harm that unoffending darling child?
Can your highness doubt?
Speak, what mean you? On whom do your suspicions fall?
But who should it be but the foreign adventurer, Frankenstein?
Frankenstein?
Oh, heavens!
Has anyone else access to the pavilion, or ever presumed to enter it, except an eager search of the young prince?
I scarcely can believe it possible. But yet his lengthened absence from the festival at that very hour, his palpable agitation when he entered. Frankenstein, what say you to this dreadful accusation?
I say that I am guilty 1,000 times. Not of the crime of murder. I could not lay a finger in the way of violence on that lovely child. Mine is a guilt 1,000 times more black, more terrible. I am the father of 1,000 murders. Oh, presumption, hubris, is this thy punishment? Has my punishment, promised triumph, brought me to this downfall?
Frankenstein, for mercy's sake explain. What horrid mystery lurks beneath thy words?
Shots and a sound of pursuit are heard. The monster rushes in, pursued by peasants, the nervous, the armed people, all who shriek with horror. The monster rushes up to Frankenstein and casts himself at the doctor's feet, imploring protection. Oh, Daddy, Daddy, protect me.
Hated, detested fiend, you reek with the blood of innocence. Fiend of destruction, here on thy hated head, I now invoke a father's and a prince's vengeance. Quit the life thou hast disgraced by slaughter. Die, monster, die!
Frankenstein seizes on the monster, and others close in around him. The monster dashes Frankenstein to the earth, and by exertion of his immense strength, breaks through his opposition. The prince gives the word to fire.
Fire!
The monster snatches up an officer and holds him as a shield. Grab an officer, hold him as a shield. The officer is shot and falls dead. The monster rushes up the steps of the throne and takes the throne and lets out a mighty roar. A tableau is struck on which the curtain falls. End of scene. End of act. All right. We will have a very brief intermission. Remember that you can still donate money if you want. Act 2, Scene 1, a dank cellar. It contains a variety of crates and barrels. The cellar belonged to the villa, entered only by a ladder from a small trap door above. Suddenly, Dr. Frankenstein's servant Strut is forced down the ladder, and the trapdoor slams shut above his head.
Oh. Well, my master has done a nice job for himself. Should seem with all his machinery and magic, the making of a man is rid of a made man for life. I seem destined to share all his advantages, because his hopeful creation chose to amuse itself by strangling a child, much in the same way I suppose normal brats do kittens. They've seized hold of me, popped me into this underground cellar. They wish to keep me out of mischief, as if I share my master's propensity and have a penchant for making men and strangling children. Now, if this were a wine cellar, that would be some consolation. I might, by the magic of a good liquor, convert this dungeon into a fairy palace. And when I could stand no longer, these hard stones would turn into silken cushions. But everything now has the appearance of a cursed and comfortable reality. Ah! I think I hear someone coming. I suppose it's the old butler Quadro, who is about to set me at liberty. Or at least afford me the consolation of a flagon of his best.
The trapdoor opens, and Quadro descends, followed by his daughter, Gisetta.
How do you do? Yes. So glad to see you. I hope you're to bring me some comfort in one shape or another.
Oh, yes, the best of all possible comforts. The news of a speedy termination to all your miseries. You will very shortly be exalted, my fine fellow. No, elevated, in fact. Tied up and tucked up and forced to dance upon nothing.
Don't mention it. I assure you such allusions are altogether unpleasant to my feelings. For though you may consider my master a bit of a mountebank, I assure you that I have never been accustomed to dance on a tightrope, let alone be considered for a hanging. Oh, you dear little creature, I have dreamt of nothing but hanging around your neck, and as for tying and tucking up, I had hoped we'd both been tied and tucked up in our wedding bed instead of this unfortunate turn of events.
Oh, for shame, sir. At a time like this.
Oh, you did, do you? Well, there's a very deep and narrow bed in preparation for you, where you will find it most convenient to lie down tucked up with the grave digger's shovel.
I am surprised at you mentioning such indelicacies before a young lady.
In confusion occasioned by the appearance of his revolting companion, your pretty master effected his escape, but I took care to ensure you were grappled, though I consider the nabbing of such a fellow as you to be in my department. So it was that I had you blocked into this cellar.
It would have been much more handsome of you to plop me into the cellar where you keep the liquor.
Yeah. You will be hanged for having aided, abetted, and assisted your master in the formation of that monster, and as an accessory in the prince's murder.
Signor Quadro, you shock me. Accused of assisting to make a man. Let me tell you, I was never before suspected of such an offense, not even by the parish officer, and he was a sharp chap at nosing such matters, I warrant ye.
Oh, but sir, now you are in my clutches. You won't get off so easy. You may depend upon it.
Oh, Dr. Frankenstein, this is a pretty mess you've got me into. Just that godfather to your monster.
Now, my dear, how can you be so harsh to this poor young man? I don't really believe he had any hand in it. In my opinion, he would not be concerned with the making of anything half so ugly.
Did I not say from the very beginning, did I not always insist that they were a brace of vagabonds and no good would come of harboring?
But now, my own good, kind, dear father, seeing that what is done cannot be undone, that hanging this young man would only make bad into worse, could you not contrive to let him go?
Let him go indeed. And what for?
me, Father. Really, he's a tolerably well-behaved young man, and not at all hard to look at.
Oh, you think so? And next, you want to go with him? You minx?
No.
Well, you can go and see him hanged if you like.
My dear, beautiful father. You don't know, though you are rather old. Yes, rather old. How well you look when you're doing a good-natured deed.
Oh,
She's thinking Struck to take advantage of this opportunity to run up the ladder and escape.
No, you coaxing Jezebel, don't think you can wheedle me out of my purpose.
Now look at my face. Look in my face. And frown a refusal. If you can, Father, please, will you look at me? Will you let him go?
No, I won't.
Oh, Father! You're sure you won't?
No, I'll be damned if I do.
Strutt has now reached the top of the ladder.
Then I advise him to do as I shall, to be off without asking your leave and let you enjoy the comforts of this feast by yourself.
She runs to the ladder and with Strutt's assistance hastily ascends it, after which they quickly draw up the ladder.
Why, you jade, you vixen, you undutiful hussy!
Oh, well, goodbye, Father. Oh, stay here, just until the young man is out of your reach, for I cannot bear that you should have his death upon your conscience.
Go, both of you. No, and people the world with monsters, no, if you will. You can produce none worse than a betraying daughter.
By old gentlemen.
Strutt and Lizetta disappear with the ladder as Quadra rushes about in rage. End of scene. Act 2, great, scene 2. We're gonna need a monster. Who wants to be the monster? Okay, oh, I saw his hand first, so come on up. Okay, so we're going to need you, and you're going to tear a hole in a wall here down left. So come stand by me and listen to what I say the monster does. Okay, Herr Ritzberg's rented cottage. Dr. Frankenstein rushes in upright in a great agitation.
Where am I? Let me a moment pause and collect my distracted thoughts. Compose, if possible, this tumult of the brain. I have fled, but to where have I fled, and why? Had not death been welcome, but then to perish on the scaffold, loaded with the infamy, innocent I would have died to save. No. It must be. Not yet. My life has been devoted to the fulfillment of one object. But now a new devotion claims me. I must destroy that which I have created. I must purge the world of that infuriated monster. To free mankind from the dark persecution of that demon. This is now my bounded duty. And to this awful task I solemnly swear my life.
Emmeline, the child, enters and sees a silhouette.
A stranger here. Can I believe my senses? Am I so blessed? Is it Herr Frankenstein come to seek his Emmeline? My lord, my life, my Frankenstein!
Oh, what do I behold? Emmeline Ritzberg, lost, guilty, cursed, wretch! Thy cup of crime and misery is full. Hell yawns for thee, and all thy victims now surround thee, calling down heaven's vengeance on your head.
You do not look pleased to see me. Is Emmeline's presence occurred? Farewell, then, sir, and farewell, hope. Will not persecute thee, Herr Frankenstein, for I shall wander with our child where thou shalt never more be punished with remembrance of us, where death will soon end our sorrow.
Emmeline, tear not my heart with words like those. What to a guilty wretch can be a greater curse to the presence of those he is injured? Now, at thy feet, behold me, Emmeline. In humble agony of heart, I plead for thy forgiveness. Pardon me. Oh, that I never had quitted thy peaceful, blessed abode. I should have never let into my bosom those demons of ambition and pride that preyed upon my soul with ceaseless gnawing.
Not at my feet, but in my arms, my dear Frankenstein. Lose all the memories of sorrows past. If thy heart still owns thine Emmeline, all shall be well. Be happy. One fond embrace of thine repays an age of sorrows. In thy smile I shall again awake to joy.
Oh, Emmeline, since we parted, all has been crime. Crime of so dark a dye that even to thy gentle, forgiving spirit I dare not confess it. Crime whose punishment will be eternal.
My dear Frankenstein, to be absolved, guilt only needs to be abjured. Return to virtue and domestic peace. Thy Emmeline shall soothe every woe, and on her bosom, on her bosom, thou shalt forget thy griefs.
In this land, I cannot hope a moment's ease. Quick, let us fly far from this accursed spot, the bane of all my peace. There, to that calm retreat where first thy angel charms awoke my soul to love. There, I could forget the guilt, the misery to which I have become enslaved. Let us quick repair to Germany.
Frankenstein! There's just no time to parley. The cottage just caught fire. That fierce monster snatched a torch from a pursuing peasant and tossed it on a roof as he ran away.
A dark laugh is heard outside.
Quick, let us fly, but not to our home country, not yet. His hellish malice shall pursue me until his death or mine. Thus, to cease his persecution of my soul and of mankind in general, we must attempt to end the creature.
Frankenstein attempts to open the cottage door. Unmovable, Ritzberg and Frankenstein attempt to open the cottage door together, but it is barricaded from outside. A dark laugh comes from outside. Smoke and flames begin to appear within the cottage. Frankenstein rushes off to another room to search for a way out. Suddenly, there is a loud sound of wood being pried and torn away. The monster tears open a portion of the wall and enters through the chasm. He seizes Emmeline and her child and bears them through the burning ruins, through the hole he made in the wall. Take the baby out. There you go. Save him. He saves her, yay! Herr Ritzberg follows after.
Let her go, you wretched beast!
Frankenstein returns from the bedroom and perceives that Emmeline and her child and Ritzberg are all gone. In his despair, he notices a large hole ripped in the wall. Frankenstein steels himself and rushes in after them. And scene. All right. Yeah. Thank you, monster. Good job. You may take your seat. You may take your seat in the audience. And if you make come out again, nobody else wants to do it. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good job for our monster. Yes. Woo! Okay. Act 2, Scene 3, in the countryside of the prince's lands. Strut and Lisetta run in upright, looking behind them to see if they were followed. Then take a moment to catch their breath.
Well, Rosetta, I, now having by your assistance escaped from the clutches of the cantankerous old father of yours, what's next to be done?
As I have gotten out of his clutches at the same time, and therefore lost my natural protector, what do you think you ought to be doing next?
Oh, why, it seems that you suppose I ought to marry you.
You are of a different opinion?
Not in the least, my angel. But my poor master is in trouble and he requires my attention, but deserting him in his hour of need, I cannot do it, Lisetta. No, not even to possess such a treasure as yourself.
Suppose, Mr. Strutt, we were both to go and assist him. 2 heads, they say, are better than 1, and so are 2 pair of hands. And instead of having 1 faithful follower, you would now have a couple.
No, you don't mean it. Do you? Would you really take me for better or worse? To go with me in search of my poor master, to save him if I can.
But of course.
Oh, my dear creature, I've always thought you were good, but now you're practically divine. I may have to adore you.
Who knows? Perhaps Mr. Frankenstein may get married too, and then he'll have far better employment than making monsters. Or at least at making monsters not of women born.
Oh, that monster. Don't mention him to me, Lisetta. If he should be with my master now, do you think you would have the courage to face him? I'm not quite sure I should.
Oh, never doubt me. If I take him in hand, I'll bring him to his senses, I warrant me. For if a spirited woman can tame him, he must be a very fierce and ungovernable devil indeed.
What shriek means that by that shriek? Yonder where the demon comes. He bears with him a woman and child. She does not seem to have tamed him at any rate.
Strut hides. Then he pulls at Lisetta.
I would not have him come within arm's length of me. You. Us. For the world.
The monster, exultingly bearing Emmeline and her child, crosses and exits, and Frankenstein crosses a staggering step after them, almost overcome with fatigue and terror.
What? Oh, Master! Dr. Frankenstein! Strut, your faithful servant. He hears me not, but madly still pursues the fiend. He cannot hope to master.
And will you too, Strut, be man enough to follow him?
What? Be alone versus the monster? Not likely. It would be of little purpose. He'd snap me like a twig. I'll tell you what I'll do. First, we'll find you a place of safety, and then I'll summon together a few stout-hearted fellows, and we can't settle his monster ship. On my honor, he shall kill and eat me before he harms that poor woman and her infant. And if it comes to that, I'll endeavor on the way down to give him quite a case of heartburn and a sharp bellyache. Come.
Strut takes Lisetta off to hide her. End of scene. Okay, we're going to need a monster, and we need 1 to 2 peasants. Who wants to? Okay, monster, come on up. I saw you. Want to be peasant? Come on up, peasant. And any other peasant takers? Peasant takers? This is what usually people don't want to. They want to watch and not play. Got it. Okay, so Act 2, Scene 4. You both are going to enter down right. So what the scene? I'm going to describe it and reread, but basically. Imagine a raked stage. So the stage goes uphill as it goes towards stage left. And this is the mountain peak. And so you all are going to enter from down right. And you're going to enter from down right. And you're going to trudge uphill. Okay? When you're told. Yeah. So here we go. All right. Okay, a tremendous range of craggy precipices near the summit of Sicily's Mount Etna. On stage left is a conspicuous pillar of rock, which stands at a lofty elevation. On the only approach is from the depths below downright. The monster with gigantic strides ascends from below with Emmeline and the child. She is so overcome with fatigue and terror, she's unable to speak. The monster gains elevation, and with a cord from around his waist, the monster binds Emmeline to the pillar of rock. So tie her up to the rock. Good job. Next, the monster returns to the child as Emmeline sinks to her knees in supplication. So the monster holds the child, and Frankenstein, with great difficulty, ascends from below and sees his child in the monster's hands. Frankenstein starts to rush on him, but the monster stands defiant, and Frankenstein, recollecting his former defeats, abandons his threatening gesture and assumes one of entreaty. Beg the monster.
Oh, cruel monster of my own creation. I beg you not to spill the blood of innocents. How many victims before your rage is quenched? I, who gave you life, who wrongly scorned you at your birth, who endowed you with your singular strength that I cannot hope to match. On my knees, I beg you now to spare that child. My child. If fury and thirst for blood are your nature, then turn your appetite to me. But if your human frame exists even just one spark of human sympathy or compassion, please spare my unoffending child.
The monster points to the wound in his shoulder, then expresses through mine that he only wanted to serve Frankenstein and befriend Frankenstein. So you get to mime this part as the monster. But every overture was repelled with scorn. The monster was shot. So show us where you were shot. In the arm, in the shoulder. Can you point to the shoulder? I was shot right there. That's right. Then I was attacked in every encounter. Remember the boy throwing rocks? He was getting rocks hit at you. Remember that? The monster holds the child to his breast. Then the monster holds the child aloft as though he's about to dash it on the rocks. Frankenstein, with a cry of horror, drops to his knees and lowers his head in supplication. At this moment, a thought occurs to Emmeline. She pulls from under her dress a small flageolet and begins to play an aria. The monster is at once astonished and delighted. He places the child on the ground and moves toward the music, his attention fully absorbed by it. Frankenstein slips over to the child and takes the infant in his arms. Emmeline continues to play as Frankenstein withdraws with the child. The effect of the music on the monster grows. The monster feels more powerful and excited and effects a dance. He dances and dances in delight. Soon the monster, though, becomes fatigued and returns to Emmeline and curls up at her feet to go to sleep. Lays down, exhausted, curls up at Emmeline's feet, and falls asleep. Strut rushes in with Herr Ritzberg and some peasants, armed with rope and farming implements.
There he is! And luckily for us, he seems to be enjoying a bit of a snooze. Now's the time I never get him! And bind him fast, and then we shall be all right.
Strut, Ritzberg, and the peasants immediately fall on the monster and bind him stoutly, as Frankenstein releases Emmeline. The monster makes tremendous exertions of strength to burst through the bonds, but he is overpowered by the number of his adversaries.
Away, master! Take your lady and child to safety. I'll quarter this gentleman, then return to attend to your commands.
Strut! Oh, Strut, you faithful creature! Receive my thanks, and if any have need to inflict punishment, it is on my guilty head alone, that it is you should direct your wrath. Blame not my loyal Strut, nor those who most dear to me, for they are innocent. The hubris was mine alone.
Frankenstein and Emmeline, with the child in her arms, descend downright and disappear.
I think the best thing we can do now for this gentleman is to fasten him to this rock, which should suffice as we wait for the jailer's wagon. Unless the lava suddenly flows from the volcano, but that seems unlikely.
They are binding him to the rock as the monster resists furiously. Inadvertently, during the struggle, one of the peasants is thrown off and plummets to the depths below. Ah! Oh my, that's sad.
Well, that's right. Make a tight job of it, for if he gets loose, he'll return to manhandling tenfold and crack our heads like so many walnuts. Okay, bye. He's right here. He's just turned invisible. That's part of his chameleon-like powers. Yes. There, I think that'll do now. That's not much fear of his troubling for us again in a while. Come.
Strut, Ritzberg, and the peasants descend from the rock and leave the monster tied up. When they are gone, the monster redoubles his efforts to escape his bonds, and eventually he succeeds. He surveys the area and is afraid to venture down until he gets an idea. He firmly attaches one end of the binding rope to the rock, and then he attaches the other end to his waist. Then he slowly lowers himself back over the back of the rock until he is all the way down off the rock. And he exits up left. Thank you. End of scene. Okay. Act 2, Scene 5, a subterranean passage. Would you like to sit down for a little bit? I will meet a monster in one scene, but not yet. So, it's up to you, young man. Act 2, Scene 5, a subterranean passage hollowed in the mountain. At rise, Strut enters with some peasants as they slowly climb along the mountain.
Faith, my lads! It's cold work, this. Climbing so near the summit of Mount Etna. Chill evening breeze. Yes, and fatiguing work, too. And catching such game as we've been after is no child's play. Lord, what a chap my master must be when making a man who thought he might as well make a whopper of a one. We may have successfully quieted this gentleman, and I think we had a much harder job of securing this creation than my master did in making him. And now I can tell you a secret. This passage leads to the hermitage of Father Antonio. which you already knew, so that's no secret. But what perhaps you do not know is that old Signor Quadro, the prince's butler, always brings a bottle or two of prime old wine whenever he visits here. He uses the wine as payment to the church in lieu of his penance, and so he makes his master pay for all his sins. He purchases absolution for one sin by committing another. Having wrangled that gentleman, I really think we better deserve this wine than the Reverend Father, and I formally propose we adjourn to this cave here and drink to the future prosperity of the heroes who shrouded the monster and subdued the monster.
Okay, end of scene. We're coming into a new scene. We will need a monster and ideally a peasant if anybody wants to be a peasant. Yeah, great, monsters. Thank you for being there. Okay, great. We have a monster, and we're going to move on with that with our own peasants. Okay, Act 2, Scene 6. Interior of Strut. So the monster's going to enter left, so you're in a good place. And interior of Father Antonio's cave cellar. Strut and peasants are seated around a small table, a very small table.
Upon my soul,
Peasant
it's a
one is searching for something.
very pleasant retreat. And now for a little store of choice Valerian wine.
Here it is, Master Strut. Here's His Reverence's holy water.
Out with it then, and in with the wine. If His Reverence should miss his holy water, he knows how to make more. Old Quattro Sin has surely kept the father's cellar well stocked. So now, my lads, serve the wine and charge your cups.
The peasants place on the table several flagons of wine and cups.
Go to, fill them to the brim.
The cups are filled. All peasants.
Here's to confinement of any creature that would harm a defenseless woman and a helpless child. For no matter what their shapes may be, they must be monsters indeed.
Bravo, with all my heart.
Here, here.
And now I'll give you another. Here's to our noble selves, and may all of our future enterprises be crowned with as complete a success as that which we have now so gloriously achieved.
As they all tip their cups to their lips, the monster lowers himself by his robe from the roof of the caverns to stand next to the table in the midst of them all. They all shrink back in terror with loud cries. The monster, with one blow, dashes the table into pieces. Strut and the peasants fly in every direction. The monster takes chase, dashing about, and Strut takes this opportunity to stab the monster in the back and then runs off, leaving the dagger in the monster's wound. The monster extracts a knife and he roars with pain and rushes off. Go get him, monster, go get him. Yay, end of scene, excellent monster. Act 2, Scene 7, a narrow rocky pathway that leads to the summit of Mount Etna. Enter Strut, a peasant, and they rapidly retreat from the monster, and the monster follows in pursuit right after them. Frankenstein enters with Emmeline. They are followed by a peasant, and who Dr. Frankenstein encourages to go attack the monster. They all go off in pursuit and scene. Act 2, Scene 8, the summit of Mount Etna. The crater occupies the middle of the stage. Near it is the pathway from below. Depicted in the distance are the sea and towns at the foot of Mount Etna. The volcano sporadically throws out torrents of fire, sparks, and smoke as if an eruption is imminent. The monster ascends from below, entering down the monster ascends from below, as the peasants and Strut run from the monster and spread out around the summit. Faint from loss of blood and overcome by fatigue, the monster is pursued by Frankenstein, who has picked up a branch along the way to use the club. As Frankenstein attacks, the monster swipes and stabs defensively with the dagger taken from its wound in its back. Soon, one of the monster's blows lands and Frankenstein is stabbed and falls. Emmeline rushes in. She shrieks and cradles Frankenstein's limp body. The monster attempts to escape, but is met at every outlet by people stopping him. In despair, the monster rushes up to the apex of the mountain. The people rush to and from quickly, taking positions, keeping the monster from running away. The The monster immediately leaps into the crater and sprays of